Dr. Mira Hale sat alone in the quiet observation deck, surrounded by banks of softly glowing screens. Every night, she listened to faint alien transmissions and traced patterns in static. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the frequency. Dial, after months of silence, even a ghost of a signal felt like a gift. The outpost on Kepler 4b was remote and lonely, but it was her home. Beneath the twin moon's pale light, she felt both the weight of wonder and the thrill of discovery. When the amphitheater's floodlights snapped on, Mira froze. The great domed clearing before her hearted with sudden motion. Soldiers in crisp uniforms formed a wide circle, and at their center hovered a sleek silver craft. A hush fell over. Everyone engineers, linguists, officers' age, person aware that history was unfolding beneath the starlit sky. Mira's breath caught in her throat as a ramp descended slowly, sending ripples through the crowd. A single figure emerged. Moved with grace, each step measured and calm, the being was taller than any human, its form wrapped in robes of shifting light that shimmered like distant galaxies. A crown of radiant filaments curved above its head, casting soft glows across the assembled faces. It drifted toward Mira. She felt a strange tug at her heart, as if an invisible thread connected them. Then, to everyone's astonishment, the alien ruler knelt. One knee touched the crystalline ground, and the glow of the crown pulsed in gentle waves. Mira's eyes widened. Every protocol manual she had studied said that a warrior kneeling was a sign of defeat or humility, but this gesture felt different, sacred, almost reverent. She leaned forward, unsure whether to speak or simply to witness what might come next. Mira's mind raced. Why her? She was just a scientist, not a diplomat or soldier. Her days were filled with decoding symbols and analyzing data, not negotiating interstellar peace. And yet here she was, the focal point of an entire civilization's. Greeting, her pulse thudded painfully in her ears. She felt small beneath those shimmering robes, but also strangely important. As though destiny had chosen her for this moment. Silence hung between them until the ruler bowed its head, and in a voice like warm wind, it spoke a single word. Promise. The syllable floated across the space, and Mira's skin tingled at the sound. Promise of what? Friendship, protection, agreement? Her breath caught again, and she swallowed hard. The word carried weight she could not yet understand. The eyes of the ruler met hers, and Mira felt an unspoken plea woven through that gaze. Under the glare of spotlights, the crowd held still. The military advisors in their crisp uniforms exchanged uneasy looks. Engineers gripped data pads. A distant hum from the craft thrummed through the air. Mira realized that everyone here was waiting for her response. Their fates in some small way were bound to hers. The night felt impossibly heavy, charged with expectation and hope. Mira swallowed another time. Her voice quavered a little as she spoke. I promise. The word felt strange on her tongue, carrying the weight of worlds she could barely imagine. But as she said it, a warmth bloomed in her chest, steady and bright. The ruler's crown glowed more intensely, as if in approval, and the hush broke into a collective exhale. In that moment, beneath alien skies and human wonder, the future began its first breath. Dr. Mira Hale stood beneath the twin moons, the single word promise still echoing in her mind. Around her, the outpost's lights glowed softly, casting long shadows across the crystalline floor. Officers and scientists alike watched her, closely waiting to see what she would do next. She felt their eyes on her shoulders as though they weighed the fate of two worlds. Mira's heart raced with both fear and determination. The alien ruler rose slowly to its full height, the shifting robes settling around its slender frame. Its crown dimmed, then brightened in a slow pulse as if marking time. Mira noticed that its hands were open, palms facing her, fingers trembling ever so slightly. In that small quiver she sensed hope that her response might save more than just a ceremony. Yet she still did not understand what lay ahead. Lieutenant Carrick, the outpost's senior liaison officer, stepped forward, his boots whispering against the ground. He cleared his throat. Dr. Hale, what does this promise entail? What do they expect? His voice was calm, but Mira caught the edge of urgency in it. All around, engineers adjusted their communication gear, ready to translate or respond at a moment's notice. The tension was thick, palpable. Mira looked back at the ruler, trying to read meaning in its glowing eyes. She could not decipher its language beyond that single word, yet its expression held gentle insistence. She realized then that she would have to trust intuition where language failed. Taking a steadying breath, she turned to Carrick. They seek our word, she said softly, but not in words. A promise here is a bond of action and trust. The officers exchanged glances, uncertainty clear in their faces. Behind Mira, a small team of linguists clustered around portable holographic projectors, replaying the ruler's speech patterns. Dr. Conrad, the lead linguist, whispered technical terms into his headset. Mira understood only that they were racing to build a fuller translation tool. She felt sympathy for their task. It was overwhelming, and expectations weighed heavily on each of them. She offered a brief nod of encouragement before refocusing. On the ruler, in the hush that followed, the alien ruler stepped forward, almost imperceptibly, closing the distance. Its crown flared a gentle pink, bathing Mira in warm light. She felt a ripple of emotion, a mix of awe and compassion, as though the ruler were sharing its very soul. For a moment, the distance between species and worlds melted away. She remembered why she had devoted her life to studying alien languages, to connect, to understand, and to build bridges where none existed. Mira knelt on one knee, mirroring the gesture she had witnessed. It felt strange and humble, but her voice held steady as she spoke the word again. I promise. This time, the syllables felt richer, more certain, as though she understood them a little more each time. The ruler's crown pulsed in quickening rhythm, and from within its robes came a faint melody, like chimes on a gentle breeze. As the melody faded, the ruler stepped back and raised both hands, palms outward. Around its wrist gleamed a delicate band of light, an artifact perhaps, or a symbol of unity, offering toward Mira, offering the band. Her breath caught. She glanced at Carrick and saw his eyes softening with trust and hope. With careful fingers, she accepted the band, feeling warmth flow from it into her skin. A soft hum reverberated through the amphitheater. The band's light spread across the crystalline floor, leaving luminous trails like ribbons of dawn. Mira felt a surge of joy and responsibility. The promise was more than words. It was a living bond, a call to protect and nurture a fragile friendship across the stars. Around her, the outpost began to buzz with excitement and relief. That night, Mira returned to her quarters with the band secured in her satchel. She lay awake, thinking of the ruler's eyes and the weight of the promise she had made. She knew this was only the beginning, that her life and the lives of everyone on both worlds would change forever. Yet she also felt a lightness in her chest, a hope blossoming that together they could face whatever challenges awaited. Under the pale glow of the twin moons, she drifted into a careful sleep, ready for the journey ahead. Dr. Myra Hale spent the next morning hunched over her workbench in the lab, her eyes red from the first stirrings of dawn. She had retrieved the silver band from her satchel and placed it carefully beside her datapad, where the soft glow of its filaments pulsed in time with her own heartbeat. Around her, the lab was empty, but for the hum of cooling systems and the faint tapping of keyboards from the neighboring rooms. She tapped a few commands, isolating the band's light signature, then overlaid it with the strange glyphs the alien ruler had used when speaking that single word. As she adjusted frequency filters, the glyphs flickered on her holoprojector, each curve and line shifting like living brushstrokes. Her breath caught when she noticed that each glyph matched one of the star map constellations she had charted. Months earlier, she pulled up her star chart's rows of coordinates and swirling nebulae, and watched her heart leap as the glyphs aligned with patterns deep within the planet's core. It seemed that the planet itself was sending a message, echoing the ruler's voice in pulses of light. Her fingers trembled over the controls as she isolated the first phrase, "You hold our hope." Those words, blinking in amber across the projection, made her pulse quicken. Mira felt a warmth spread through her chest, a bittersweet rush of joy and and she closed her eyes to let the moment sink in. She had spent her life chasing alien languages, believing that each discovery would bring humanity closer to understanding the unknown. And now she was standing at the intersection of two worlds' lifeblood. She whispered the phrase aloud, tasting its weight on her tongue. "You hold our hope." A soft chime echoed from the band, as if in agreement, and Mira gasped. She straightened, scanning the lab for any signs of oversight or mistake, but the readings held steady. The planet's core was indeed sending a message of trust and expectation to her alone. She thought of her colleagues, the engineers setting up new transmitters, the officers planning their next diplomatic steps, and felt both pride and humility. They were placing their faith in her, trusting she could interpret and act on this vital communication. Mira felt tears prick at her eyes, not of sadness, but of wonder. She imagined the entire civilization waiting in silence, their future hinging on her ability to understand a message written in the language of stars. Carefully, she traced her finger along the hala projection where the glyphs formed a path through crystalline channels. Each pulse of light felt like a heartbeat, a living call to action. Mira knew that this message was more than mere words, was an unspoken plea for partnership, for a bond that would heal the planet's failing life force. She thought about the ruler's bowed form, the majestic figure kneeling before her in faith, and the weight of that gesture settled deeper in her chest. She leaned forward, placing her palm on the glowing band, and felt a connection spark, the band's energy synchronized with her own, as though her promise had become a bridge between her humanity and the alien world. In that instant, Mira understood the true scope of her responsibility. The hope of a dying world rested in her hands, and she could feel its pulse in her own veins. She straightened, wiping her eyes, and set her jaw firmly. No longer was she simply a scientist observing from afar. She was the living conduit for two civilizations. Determination filled her as she drafted a report to send to the outpost command. She would propose a plan to channel the planet's energy into a sustainable resonance frequency, using the alien band as a core amplifier. It was a bold idea, untested and risky, but it was born from the planet's own voice and the promise she had made. Mira knew that fear could paralyze her, but hope would drive her forward. As she finalized the technical schematics, the first rays of the sun crept into the lab, illuminating the band in warm gold. She allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. She had decoded the first message, but she knew the path ahead would not be easy. Yet with each translation, each pulse of light, she would carry the hope of two worlds in her heart, and she would not fail. Dr. Myra Hale led a small team of scientists and engineers across the crystal plains at dawn. The ground beneath their feet sparkled like broken glass, each shard catching the light of the twin moons. Mira paused at the edge of a wide fissure, tracing the pattern of glowing veins that ran deep into the planet's crust. She felt the weight of her promise settle in her chest like a steady drumbeat. Lieutenant Carrick walked beside her, his eyes wide with wonder. He had seen the band's light trail across the plains. Now he watched the crystal's pulse in time with Myra's own heartbeat. "It feels alive," he whispered. Myra nodded, her gaze fixed on the shifting patterns. "It is alive," she said softly. "This world speaks in light and crystal. We must learn its language." Behind them, Dr. Conrad knelt before a cluster of violet-hued crystals, holding a portable scanner. He tapped at the controls, sending ripples of data to Mira's holodisplay. "I'm reading resonance frequencies that match the band's signature," he reported. Mira leaned in, her breath catching as the graphs showed rhythmic pulses echoing through the earth. Each spike felt like the planet itself breathing, as if it awaited her next move. They followed the crystal veins toward a distant ridge where the land rose in sharp, prismatic towers. As they climbed, Mira felt both awe and responsibility. The promise she had made pressed on her mind, to carry hope, to be a bridge. She remembered the ruler's bowed figure, the quiet plea in its eyes. Now, she carried that plea with every careful step at the crest of the ridge. The team paused. Below them stretched a vast basin where millions of crystals formed a natural amphitheater. In the center, lay a smooth, circular platform carved by ancient hands. Mira's eyes widened. This must be the heart of the resonance network, the place where the planet's life force could be channeled. She gathered her courage and approached the platform. The crystals here glowed brighter, bathing her in soft violet light. Mira placed her palm on the smooth stone, feeling warmth surge through her fingers. Around her, the crystals hummed, and the band on her wrist flared in response. The hum grew into a clear tone that filled the air like a song. Mira closed her eyes and let the melody wash over her. It spoke of ancient pacts of a time when humans and this world stood together as equals. She felt tears slip down her cheeks, not of sorrow, but of beauty. The world was singing to her, sharing its story in light and sound. And she, a lone scientist, had become its interpreter. She opened her eyes and spoke softly. "I give you my promise. I will help you live." Her voice carried across the crystalline expanse, and the hum shifted into a brighter chord. The crystals. Glow intensified, sending shafts of light into the sky like a sunrise. Myra's heart swelled with hope. Carrick stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. "What happens now?" he asked. Myra looked back at him, her eyes shining. "Now we build," she replied. "We use the band as an amplifier, and these crystals as conductors. Together, we will restore this world's heart." For hours, they worked laying new emitter arrays around the platform, adjusting frequencies and calibrating power levels. Mira guided them with steady determination, her earlier fear replaced by fierce resolve. As the final emitter clicked into place, she activated the sequence. Light surged from the band through the crystals, and the ground trembled softly. Then, silence. The crystal's glow shifted to a steady, gentle pulse. The platform's center glowed with renewed life, and the air grew warm and clear. Mira exhaled, her knees bending as relief washed over her. Around her, the team cheered softly, awe and joy mingling in their voices. Mira looked up at the sky, where the twin moons shone down on a world reborn. She thought of the ruler and the promise she had made. In that moment, she understood her true purpose: to listen, to learn, and to bring hope where it was needed most. With a gentle smile, she whispered to the planet, "We are with you now." And somewhere far away, she knew the alien ruler would hear her words and stand tall. Once more, Dr. Mira Hale stepped into the vast cavern beneath the crystalline platform, her boots echoing against walls that glittered like a million stars. The air here was warm and humming with energy, as if the planet's heartbeat resonated through every stone. In the center of the chamber floated a living star, suspended in a cradle of shimmering crystal filaments. Its light pulsed gently, bathing Mira in soft golden radiance. She felt her chest tighten at the sight. Witnessing a living star was more wondrous than any textbook or transmission could prepare her for. The alien ruler knelt before the star, its flowing robes wrapping around its knees, crown aglow in quiet reverence. Mira hesitated, overwhelmed by the fragile beauty of this cosmic heart. Then she remembered her promise to help carry hope for a dying world. Gathering her courage, she moved forward, each step a vow renewed. Around her wrist, the silver band warmed and sent pulses of light up her arm. The star's glow flickered in response, as if greeting an old friend. Mira raised a hand, palm open, and whispered, "I am here." The cavern hummed louder, crystals vibrating in a chorus of welcome. The ruler looked at her with gentle eyes, and Mira felt a deep compassion flow between them. She understood, without words, that the star's life force had waned and that her bond with it could restore its strength. Taking a breath that filled her lungs with awe and purpose, she placed her palm against the star's surface. It felt both fluid and firm, like liquid light encased in crystal. Warmth surged through her fingers, traveling up her arm into her heart. The band glowed fiercely, and for a moment Mira's vision blurred as life and hope intertwined. She sensed the star's memories, the eons it had witnessed, the worlds it had warmed, and the despair it now carried. Tears pricked her eyes, not of sadness, but of connection. She whispered apologies for her planet's distance, promises of friendship, and words of encouragement in the only language she truly knew: compassion. The star answered with a brightening pulse, each beat stronger than the last. Light spilled over the cavern floor, illuminating hidden glyphs etched into the crystals. Mira saw words form in the radiant patterns. Together we live. Her pulse matched the words. She felt the promise complete its circle. As the star's glow steadied into a powerful, steady pulse, Myra drew back her hand and stepped away, breath-catching as the chamber filled with warmth. The ruler rose and placed a hand over its heart, then reached out to Mira, offering a single filament of crystal. She accepted it, feeling its energy resonate with the band. The ruler's voice, carried on a breeze of light, spoke one word: "Thank you." Mira blinked as tears spilled down her cheeks, overwhelmed by the honor and the weight of the moment. She looked back at the star, now shining with renewed vigor, its light flowing through the veins of crystal into the planet's depths. The cavern no longer trembled. Instead, it pulsed softly in harmonious rhythm with the twin moons above. In that silent communion, Mira understood that her role had changed forever. She was no longer just a scientist on a lonely outpost. She was a guardian of hope, a bridge between worlds, and a friend to a living star. As she exited the cavern, the ruler walking beside her, Mira felt her heart swell with purpose. The band on her wrist glowed gently, a constant reminder of the promise she had made and the life she had helped restore. Above, the crystalline plains shimmered brighter than ever, echoing the star's renewed light. Mira inhaled deeply, letting the fresh air fill her lungs. Ahead lay challenges, still diplomatic bonds to strengthen, technical hurdles to overcome, and the ever-present weight of two civilizations' hopes. But in this moment, she knew that hope itself was a force stronger than any fear. With the living star's light guiding her steps, Mira walked into her future, ready to carry the promise wherever it was needed most. Mira stepped onto the crystalline plain at dawn, the ground still humming softly beneath her boots. The sky had shifted overnight. The twin moons glowed pale and steady, and a new pale sun peeked over the horizon, bathing the world in warm gold. Crystals that had once glimmered faintly now shone brightly, reflecting light like 1,000 miniature beacons. Myra paused, breathing deeply. She felt the promise she had made pulse in her wristband, a steady reminder of the bond she shared with this world. Around her, the small science team assembled in quiet awe, ready to witness the next phase of renewal. Lieutenant Carrick approached, his uniform dusted in fine crystal fragments, eyes bright with excitement. "Dr. Hale," he said softly, "the readings from the outpost show the planet's core stabilizing. Life signs are rising across every continent." Mira smiled, her chest swelling with pride. She watched as the team activated mobile sensors that spread across the plain, sending waves of data back to the lab. Each graph displayed rising energy levels, steady temperature increases, and signs of vegetation pushing through new soil. Planet was waking up, and Mira's heart swelled at the sight of graphs that once showed decline now trending upward. That afternoon, as word spread throughout the outpost and back to Earth, a diplomatic delegation arrived by shuttle. Media drones hovered overhead, transmitting footage of the revitalized landscape and the remarkable partnership that had saved a civilization. Mira felt a flutter of nervous energy at the attention, but she steadied herself by remembering the ruler's gentle eyes. She had promised to help, and now, with data in hand, she could guide ambassadors and scientists toward lasting cooperation. In the great amphitheater where they first met, the alien ruler stood beneath a canopy of living crystals. It wore ceremonial robes woven from strands of light, each filament a symbol of renewed unity. As Mira entered, the ruler's crown brightened. In greeting, military and scientific leaders from both worlds bowed respectfully. Myra felt a surge of emotion. Her quiet nights alone in the lab now seemed a distant memory. She stepped forward, voice clear and steady, and presented her report: recommendations for a shared research facility, plans for energy exchange, and protocols to protect the planet's fragile ecosystem. The delegation listened intently, and when she finished, The ruler spoke in fluent human words. Together, we will guard this world's future. Applause rippled through the gathering. Later, under a starlit sky, Mira walked beside the ruler through gardens of luminescent flora that had sprouted since the restoration. The air was sweet with alien blooms, and the soft glow of petals lit their path. Mira marveled at the delicate balance they had achieved. Technology harmonized with nature, science guided by compassion. The ruler paused by a tall crystal arch and placed a hand on Mira's arm. In that touch, she felt deep gratitude and mutual respect. Though they did not need words, Mira whispered, I could not have done this alone. The ruler inclined its head, its crown casting dancing lights. Across the flowers, returning to her quarters, Mira found a small package waiting, a delicate pendant crafted from a single crystal filament. A note from the ruler read, For hope carried across worlds. Mira held the pendant to her heart, tears of joy welling in her eyes. She thought of her family back on Earth, her parents who had encouraged her curiosity, her mentor who had taught her patience. Every step of her journey had led to this moment of profound connection between species. Before sleep claimed her, Mira reviewed the morning's sensor data one last time. The planet's heartbeat glowed steadily on her holodisplay, each pulse proof of life restored. She spoke quietly to the band on her wrist. Thank you for trusting me. The band shimmered in response, a soft echo of light. Mira closed her eyes, content and hopeful. Tomorrow, she would help build schools and labs, teach children of both worlds, and nurture the friendship that had begun with a single kneel. Under alien skies, she had found purpose, and with each new dawn, she would carry her promise forward. 6 months later, the twin moons hung low in the violet sky as Dr. Mira Hale stood before the crystalline amphitheater once more. The night air was cool and alive with the gentle hum of restored energy flowing through the planet. Around her, thousands of alien citizens and human visitors gathered in quiet anticipation. Crystals embedded in the walls glowed softly, casting a welcoming light over the crowd. Mira felt a swell of pride and wonder. Her promise had blossomed into something far greater than she had ever imagined. At the center of the gathering stood the alien ruler, resplendent in robes of woven light, and adorned with a crown that pulsed in time with the planet's heartbeat. When Mira approached, the ruler knelt before her once again. But this time, the gesture was different. It was not one of need, but of honor. As the ruler's knee touched the crystalline floor, the audience murmured in reverent approval. Mira's breath caught. She understood that this moment marked not a plea for help, but a celebration of unity. The ruler's voice, carried on a wave of soft luminescence, spoke in clear human words. Mira Hale, you have carried our hope and restored our world. We kneel in gratitude and in friendship. At those words, the amphitheater erupted in gentle applause, thousands of lights sparkling as crystals chimed in harmony. Mira felt tears prick her eyes as she knelt beside the ruler, the silver band on her wrist glowing warmly. Rising together, the ruler extended a hand to Mira and addressed the assembly. Today, we proclaim a new chapter for our worlds. No longer shall we stand apart? We invite you, Mira Hale, to join our Council of Guardians to guide peace and progress between our peoples. A hush fell over the crowd as Mira's heart thundered in her chest. She thought of home, of her family waiting on Earth, of the lonely nights spent in her lab, and realized how far she had come. With a steady voice, she accepted, I am honored. Together we will build a future of hope. As the crowd cheered, light ribbons wove through the air, carrying messages of joy and unity. Music rose from hidden crystalline choirs, a melody that felt both alien and achingly familiar. Mira looked at the ruler, whose gentle eyes reflected stars, and saw in them a promise of friendship that would endure for generations. In that shared gaze, she understood why the ruler had knelt before her, not because she was powerful, but because she had chosen kindness and curiosity above fear. After the ceremony, a lavish reception unfolded beneath glowing trees that pulsed with soft bioluminescence. Mara, one of the youngest alien engineers, presented Myra with a commemorative sculpture. Two figures, one human, one alien standing, hand in hand atop a crystal pedestal. "This is our gratitude," Mara said, her voice trembling with emotion. Mira ran her fingers over the sculpture, feeling the intricate details and sensing the warmth of their friendship. She realized that this art, born from gratitude, was as precious as any scientific discovery. Later, Mira slipped away to a quiet terrace, overlooking the glowing plains. She held the pendant the ruler had given her, shaped from a single crystal filament, and traced its facets in the moonlight. Memories of every step flooded her mind: the first transmission in her lab, the ruler's single-word greeting, the pulse of the living star. Each moment had led to this evening of celebration. She whispered into the night, "Thank you for believing in me." The crystal on her wrist pulsed softly, as if answering in kind. Before returning to her quarters, Mira paused by a small sapling planted at the amphitheater's edge, an earth tree grown in alien soil. Its leaves glowed faintly, nourished by the planet's energy. Myra knelt and placed a hand on its trunk. "May you grow strong," she whispered. "May our worlds grow together." The sapling shimmered in response, and Mira felt hope bloom once more in her chest. That night, as Mira drifted into sleep, she dreamed of distant blue skies and unfamiliar stars, of hands reaching across galaxies, and of the promise that kindness can heal even the deepest wounds. Under alien moons and human hope, she had found her purpose to be a bridge between worlds, to protect their shared future, and to remind all who knelt that true strength lies in trust and compassion. And in the gentle glow of her dreams, too, civilizations stood together, ready for the adventures yet to come.